YouTube, it's Will from Will Development, and this is my comp recap video. September 21st, yes, September 21st, which is Saturday, I participated in my third competition. However, it's only my second strongman competition. The very first competition I ever had was a kind of a hybrid athlete thing. It's not for me, let's put it that way. But this is my second strongman competition. It was my first time competing in an actual open weight class, which in this case was the 200s, which I anticipate staying in the 200 class. Definitely won't be dropping down to the 175s. At some point in my life, I may jump up to the 231s just because I weigh like 220 or something like that and don't feel like cutting. But for now, I'm a 200 pound competitor. That's the way it's gonna go. So I figured I would just catalog everything sequentially. Sure, that's a word that works here. And just go in order, talking about each day and how everything happened. Went down Thursday. Was it Thursday? Yes, Thursday evening, afternoon. It was around 3 or 4 o'clock. We left town. It was about 2 hours, 40 minutes to get down there. And at the time I was weighing about 202 pounds, give or take. I had no water on Thursday, and no food on Thursday either. Wednesday I'd eaten a little bit, and had a half gallon extra, so whatever water I got from my food, on top of the extra half a gallon. And like I said, I woke up weighing about 202 pounds. It was about 203 Thursday when I woke up, and then by the time I got down there, I was about 202 when I went to bed Thursday night. Woke up in the morning, and I was still like 201 maybe. I don't remember exactly what I was at. Probably should have written it down, but I wasn't all that concerned, but it was still just a little bit stressful weighing in Friday morning. Luckily they had very early weigh-ins on Friday. They offered them from 8 a.m. to 7, and then I think from like 3 to 5 or something. I was like, I'm definitely gonna go for the early one, that way I have all day to eat and rehydrate. So I went in and weighed in, wearing clothes. I was like 201.6 or 7. And then I have no shame, so I stripped right down to my underwear, re-weighed in, and I believe the number was like 200.4, which it's always left up to the discretion of the, organizer. And I believe the way that the weight class works is essentially it's 176 to 200, and then 201, to 231. Is the next weight class. So as long as there isn't a 201 on the screen or on the actual weigh-in device, I believe they consider that good. I wasn't going to argue with them. I was thirsty and hungry, so immediately spent the rest of the day eating and drinking. I had probably 3 bottles of electrolyte water, like my own, I made myself. It's just some electrolytes off of Amazon that I really like. Very broad spectrum electrolyte supplement that has no carbs in it. It's just all pure salts and whatnot. So I really like that, and I spiked maybe a gallon and a half worth of water with those. Just a bunch of little bottles we had. And drank down quite a few of those. Ate down all my good vertical diet foods. And honestly just kept eating. I probably shoved about 7,000 to 8,000 calories into my body that day, including a shake to end the day. When I was running out of room, I had 2 very large meals with, essentially rice and beef, and then potatoes and beef. And it's hard to eat a lot, especially when you were just not eating a lot. So it was, not that I've ever had trouble eating a lot. I've always been pretty good at eating a lot, obviously, since I used to be a fat kid. But I was running out of room in my stomach, and I was starting to get to the point where I was like feeling sick almost of eating. So whipped up some peanut butter with Greek yogurt and protein powder mixed in there, just to get some extra carbs and protein and more nutrients and good stuff in me. And then when I was totally full and sick of that. I had a protein shake with 2 scoops of protein and a bunch of milk, basically a double shot of it. I put something else in there, and I can't remember what it was now. But it was about a 500, 600 calorie shake I had just to finish off the night. And like I said, I weighed in at around 200.4. Let's just say that was the number. By the end of the night, I was weighing 209.6. So I almost was able to put 10 pounds worth of stuff back into my body. And I was shooting for trying to eat about 10 pounds worth of stuff, or ingest 10 pounds worth of nutrients, but fell just a little shy of that number. The way I figured it in my head was, I knew I had some events I wasn't going to do so good at, or that would be a little more challenging, so I figured if I can't do the actual competition to the ability that I wish I could, and someday will be able to be competing at, I might as well do the easy shit, right? And eating is easy shit, honestly. Eating right is easy. Especially when it's like all you have to do is eat good foods for one fucking day. Like, how is that complicated, you know? Now, that being said, after the comp I have been indulging. I've had my share of pizza, which I haven't had in about 6 weeks, and trying to finish off this last jar of peanut butter that I had bought while I was down there. Because the faster I finish that off, the faster I can resist it. Jif, if you're looking to sponsor somebody, I'm more than willing to hawk your product at everybody. I love Jif. It's a problem. I need to get it out of my house. So then I woke up Saturday morning, which was the day of the competition. I actually felt really good waking up on Saturday morning. Friday didn't feel so hot. That first night, you know, new house, different bed, all that stuff. Woke up Friday morning, not feeling so hot. Saturday morning I woke up, I actually felt really good. I got about 8 hours of sleep. I should say I laid down for about 8 hours. That's, you know, I was like set aside about 8 hours of sleep time. Wanted an early start for the comp. They wanted us there at 7, so I actually got up around 4:30 or 5. I don't remember exactly when, but I remember laying down specifically so I'd have at least 8 hours in the bed. And I believe I was so tired because I woke up at 6 Friday after going to bed pretty late, just to really make sure that I would, and then stayed up all Friday, just to make sure that Friday night I would be able to sleep once I hit the pillow. And that seems to be what happened, and I woke up Saturday feeling really good. I was weighing about 203 pounds on Saturday morning, so my body took everything I had, and apparently there was 6 pounds worth of stuff it went through. And then, I mean, if you want the real honest truth, 2 nervous shits later and 1 nervous piss later, I was about 202 pounds when I walked out of the door on Saturday morning. My plan was to have a moderate-sized meal before the actual comp, but what I found was I just wasn't that hungry, and I was worried if I ate something too heavy I would get sick. So I took down a protein shake and then packed up for the comp, which I'm very happy with how I handled my nutrition during the comp. I feel like I did a really good job. At no point was I hungry or shaky from anything, you know, lack of carbs, lack of electrolytes, any of that. And very proud of how that went down. Got there at around 6:58, 7-ish, you know, right when we were supposed to. Felt good. Set up the little camper, or canopy, whatever you call that thing. Actually, I don't know what to call it. I think it's a canopy. But, set that up, and we were ready to roll around 9. First event was the squat, and I remember worked up to about 345 on the warm-ups, just because it's hard to warm up with a bunch of other people there. So, you know, it was about 345 in the warm-up, and I hit it for 1, and I went, this is definitely going to be a rough event for me, you know, doing 350. Went up there when they called my name, and I actually managed to smack out 14 reps. And if I could have gotten into a better groove, I probably could have gotten a little more, but honestly, once I got to 10, I was just like, oh my god, and I looked up and said, it's 10, right? And they were like 10, I was like, cool. I took like a 3-second, 4-second break at the most, and then got back under and eked out 4 more, which was only 1 shy of last place on that event. No, it wasn't even last place on that event. I was actually middle of the pack on that event, which made me feel good. Now, the 2 top guys, they beasted. I love those guys too. They're really nice. they got like 20 something apiece. So, you know, I wasn't really close to them, but, you know, I felt good knowing that I'm not completely useless at this particular event I thought I'd be useless at. Speaking of completely useless events, the next event was, being useless at events, I should say. The next event was the clean and press with the axle. It's a clean and press away event where we had to clean the axle once and then just press it away as many times as we could. I'm not going to make any kind of excuses. I was not ready for that kind of weight. I mean, the bottom line is the most I'd ever gotten in training was about 195-ish. Was never able to clear 200-ish at any point, even out of a rack. The most I'd ever cleaned was about 180. This event was really tough for me, and I was not prepared in the way I should have been. I'm not going to say could have been, because honestly I was doing pretty good here and there, but if I'm being really honest, that event is a little nerve-wracking for me because it's a very explosive movement, the clean, and explosive movements make me nervous for my hip and back. And it's just one of those things that I need to just slowly work on, and in the future, if an event like that shows up again in another comp I'm planning on doing, then I will have a little more work cut out for myself. And that's not to say I'm not going to be training it, you know, in the meantime, figuring out a better way to clean for my own abilities and prior injuries and etc. Now, I'll put it this way. I'll preface this statement by saying this is one of the best ran comps. We were started by about 9:15, which is, you know, that's strongman time. You know, at 9 means 15, 9:15. At 10 means 10:15. That's just how they work. And we were done before 3, as I recall, including awards and everything. So, very well run comp. I have no complaints in terms of time management. I would say my only critique of this particular comp would be the sharing of warm-up equipment. God, I can't think of the words. The sharing of warm-up equipment. Essentially, a lot of the equipment we were using to warm up with was the equipment that was being used for the actual event. Now, in some regards, I actually liked that because the yoke that I had practiced the squat on doing my warm-ups was actually the yoke I was squatting with for the actual event. They had 2 of the same yokes, but I think they were different. I don't know, I kept hearing different things. Very mismatched. That kind of stuff in strongman I don't mind too much, you know, precise numbering. I don't care about that too much, you know. Oh, it weighs 186 or, you know, 200, like, you know, that stuff doesn't bother me too much, but, you know, certain things do bother me. That's strongman in a quote. Now, when I'm talking about warming up, though, one of the big things that was, and it would have made no difference in my particular case, but I know some other people may have had better chances had they had more adequate warm-up time, ability. Definitely on the axle. It was a bit of an annoying moment because there was about maybe 50 people at this particular comp, you know, of men, women, heavyweight, lightweight, you name it. And they only had 2 axles, and one axle was already set to 200 pounds with the tires on it. So, you know, it's like, okay, essentially the heavyweights go over there, and that's about it. Because I can't just warm up with 200 pounds. That's just not going to happen, you know? So all I wanted to do was warm up with 135 and then jump all the way to 185, honestly. I was willing to do that and say, you know what, give me 2 reps, 2 warm-ups, that's as good as I'll take. But, you know, it was very annoying because every time we went to go change the weights, because people had them set to like 115, which, you know, the novice guys were only going up to 185 anyway. But it got annoying because every time we went to change the weights, people would come out of the woodworks and be like, oh, hey, I haven't warmed up yet. And it's like, well, where have you been? We've been standing here for 10 minutes attempting to do warm-ups, and every time we try to change the weight, somebody else jumps up. So there was an even bigger spot of bother, a spot of annoyance, actually, where we were all standing there and a bunch of the female athletes came up and said, oh, hang on, we need to warm up. And we got chastised for not letting them warm up, even though this was the first time they had come up to warm up. We were standing there for 10 minutes, all the lightweight guys went, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to jump in at 135, I'm not going to waste any reps on, you know, 110 pounds or whatever, you know, just get me up to 135 or whatever. And a bunch of men had gone, some of the even women had gone. And then all of a sudden we're like, all right, we're jumping up to like 130, and a lot of them were like, okay, I got my warm-up in. Just as we're about to change the weights, women come up, and then we're getting chastised for not letting them warm up. And it was kind of annoying, because it reminded me sort of like in school when stuff like that would happen, or like if you have siblings, where your sibling would just sort of make up a story to make it seem like you were being mean and, hoarding stuff, but it wasn't the case at all. It felt like that, and I'm not going to begrudge anybody too harshly for it. Like I said, it's not like it pissed me off or anything, but it was certainly a bit annoying. And a simple thing that could have mitigated that was just having one other bar, like literally just one extra barbell, because then you could have had the lightweight women all the way up to, honestly, the novice men, hell, even the 175 men, all practicing on that one bar. But I would have made the argument to novice men, 175 to 231 guys could have shared the other two bars, and it would have been fine. But just having the two there made things a little challenging, and again, I had no fucking chance of doing it, regardless of whether or not I got those warm-ups in or not. But I definitely had no chance, being that the only warm-up I got was one clean and one press at 135, and it was wobbly as fuck. So, and I knew some people that didn't even get a single warm-up. Arguments could be made, you could have used bands, you could have done push-ups, you could have done this, you could have done that. Sure, fair enough. But nothing quite compares to an axle clean. You know what I mean? Especially when most people are going to be doing a continental clean. They need some warm-up time, and it did. That was the one place where I was like, this is not as good as it could have been. And I'm not ragging on anybody, I just want it to be better for, the next people that have to do something like that, or if they plan on doing that event again, it's definitely something they could work on. And that's really the one and only critique problem I have, period, honestly. So I, only two of the people in my class were able to actually even clean it once and press it, and not that made me feel better. I don't want to watch other people fail, but it made me feel like, okay, I'm not as pathetic as I thought, if only these two amazing guys are able to do it. And they, they're pretty good guys, the two guys that won and were able to clean it. But when you watch the footage of me going for that clean, basically I pulled it off the floor for a second, went to explode, and I was like, nah. I just put it down, I was, save it, there's no point in this. Now the deadlift. This is probably the one where I feel the most sort of regret on. I feel like I probably could have done a little more. I actually ended up calling it at 550, I think, and looking back, it's like, man, I probably could have gone to 575 at the least. My body was obviously not holding as tight as it needed to, but I felt good, even after the 525. But all I did was took the 500, the 525, and the 550, and I just, I called it. I was like, I'll get points, and, I won't get injured. So that's about the only place I have any kind of regret, where I'm like, man, I probably could have done 575, but looking back on the placings, it wouldn't have made any difference, because I think the next lowest guy was like 600 on the nose, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. It just would have been kind of like, cool, I pulled a, 575. And it did suck because it wasn't my hands. Most people were going to be failing at their hands with that event, but it was definitely the rest of my body. My hands didn't even feel it. I mean, they're glued on there. When you watch the footage, you see they don't budge, because my grip is good. That weight's not enough to open up my hands. Now, weight that was enough to open my hands was Satan Shackles, for sure. A beautifully named event from one of the guys at the gym who was also competing. He did great, by the way. It was a 500-pound ship anchor chain. 500 pounds. It was a doozy, and the thing was hard to hold. And Satan Shackles are definitely a really good name for it. Now, very happy with my yoke run, because my actual run on the yoke was about 6 seconds. So I moved 320 pounds in about 6 seconds, over 50 feet. And that's the fastest I've ever moved a yoke, I think ever. Even empty, probably. And it's certainly the fastest Zercher I've ever done. I'd never actually done the 320 pounds. Most I'd done was 305, and it was about 8 seconds, maybe even 9. So the time I shaved on that was awesome. And if it had only been the Zercher yoke run, I actually would have won that event, because the next closest guy for just the Zercher run was about 7 seconds. So I would have won if it was just that. Unfortunately, it wasn't. It was the Zercher run into the chain, and that chain just tore me down. I started pulling and pulling and pulling, and where I really screwed up was when I looked up to see how far I'd gone and realized I had just barely gotten the chain over the start line. And knew there was no way in hell I'm going to be finishing this event, but I'm going to leave it all out here and do my best. And that's exactly what I did. Left it all out there. At one point, the chain slipped, and people thought I was done, actually, and I had kept some chalk in my sock, and took it out and popped it and went again, and the crowd actually really liked that. It made me feel good, too, because people thought I was quitting, but I wasn't. I was just like, my hands are slipping, I'm going to do everything I can to get the extra 3 or 4 feet that I can get it, and I, didn't actually finish the event, but I left it all out there on that one, that's for damn sure. Which shows me I've got some work to do on that. I'm normally pretty good at those kinds of events, and so that was very, very eye-opening moment for me for that one. Sort of like the Burden run back in the other comp, back in the Miami's Baddest. That Burden run was very eye-opening for me. That I was just slow. That's my problem. Gotten faster, but now I just need to get stronger to keep back on stuff. No shame in it. I just, could have done better. I did come last in that event, which put me in a terrible place for the stone lift, which was the final event, a stone I'd never touched. It was a 277-pound natural stone, and they were using that stone for the 200s and up, which sucked, and then it sucked because I was the first one touching the stone of the day. So, setting the tone and the pace, boy, let me tell you, it was nerve-wracking to say the least, but I was pretty confident that I would at least break the thing from the floor. What I really wanted was to get it in my lap and actually take one step with it. That would have been great. Unfortunately, I managed to pick it about 3 times. On the second pick, I believe I did. And when I say pick, I mean broke it from the ground. I couldn't get it in my lap. On the second attempt, I think, was the one I went to get it in my lap. And at that point, I had grabbed it wrong. I figured out how to grab it by that pick. And I was like, damn, I just grabbed it wrong. There's no way I'm going to be able to get it on my lap like this. Went for the third one, and at that point, or the fourth one, one of those, I just gassed myself. There was just no way I could pick it again. So, I managed to float it 3 times, which, to be honest, made me feel really good because there were some heavyweights who didn't even manage to get that done. So that felt good. And when it was all said and done, I did not come last because the one guy who was right there with me, holding up the rest of the class at the bottom, he went up and he could not break the stone from the ground. So, I managed to break it, which I think gave me the points to get just ahead of him. So I felt pretty good there. Overall, it's a very good comp experience. I felt like I handled the nutrition part of it very well. Stayed hydrated very well, which was one of the things the guy from the gym, the novice competitor, who he was not handling his nutrition well, and I had to basically get on him. At one point I looked at him and he had chapped lips, and I'm like, you shouldn't have fucking chapped lips right now. You should be so fucking hydrated, you should be wanting to pee, you know what I mean? And so I, sit down, drink that whole bottle of electrolyte water, and all that stuff. But he did great too. I was very proud of him. And the other competitor we had from the gym, she did really good too. She actually got second place in the lightweight women category. She did awesome, And the girl who beat her was just a half step ahead on a couple things. I mean, that's just, it was really close. It was one of those, could have flipped a coin and either one of them could have won that thing. I really feel that way. Mistakes were made, that kind of thing really, really applies to that for her. But, I wasn't really watching her all that well throughout the day. I was just getting updates here and there from other people that were there with us. So, I could be totally off base, but it certainly seemed from every kind of time I looked over and saw what was going on and had a chance to anyway, it was like, oh, okay, these two are going back and forth pretty much. And, so like I said, overall, it's a very good comp experience. Very happy with it. Probably my next comp will be in April next year, more than likely. Probably at Miami's Baddest, and I'll be doing another 200-pound class. Another 200 competition there. Obviously, I won't be going back to novice. The only other, I think I heard about one happening in Orlando. One of the guys at the comp told me about it. One, I think, coming up. He told me about it, said it was a good time, so I might look into that one. I don't know. It's one of those. Not really too interested in competing again all that fast. I'd like to keep it down to 1 or 2 comps a year. Being next year, I'll be 27 in September, so I want to do Miami's Baddest and then touch Florida's for the first time. Florida's Strongest is a very heavy show, so that'll be a hell of a show for me to try out. And then my goal has always been to be Florida's Strongest Man by the time I was 28. So I figure with that amount of time, it should give me enough time and, maybe one more comp in between those just to get a little extra comp experience, just to really, because this one was great. I mean, there was overcast the whole day and everything, so it wasn't even all that hot. It was hot, but it wasn't like Florida hot. So it was windy as hell, so there wasn't even that much humidity. It was the perfect day for a competition outside, which is not always the case, and it's not usually the case. So I'd like to get probably 1 or 2 more comps under my belt before I start getting used to the idea that I'm a contender for a top spot. Other than that, I mean, I think I've talked long enough, almost 30 minutes. Be sure to check out the comp footage. It's on my channel. I'm going to be uploading this probably on Saturday. I'll probably drop it on Sunday. I'm recording this on Wednesday night. I'll probably drop the footage from the comp tonight, being Wednesday, and then probably release this on Sunday. And we'll go from there. And then there probably won't be the week of next week, just because this week I haven't been taking any footage of my training. Even though I've gone in Monday and Tuesday, and I'll go in Thursday and Friday and Saturday. I'm not doing any kind of anything really fun. It's more like testing out. More like testing out just to see where I'm at for my next program. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think I covered everything. I mean, there's always little things here and there that I forgot, but yeah, overall, that's the comp experience. I feel like I did a lot of things that I was nervous about doing for the first time right. And, there's some other things I definitely need to improve on. A lot of it just comes down to, honestly, 100% rehabbing this back and hip situation and just getting stronger. The guys who won definitely showed me what's, like, the 200-pound class is capable of. And it's like, okay, all right. So if I want to even be kind of competitive, I need to be better than this, And yeah, that's about it. I mean, special thank you to all the people from my gym who showed up. Special shout out to my girlfriend Krista for being there and making sure I was fed and hydrated and all that, and anything I needed she went and handled. Don't forget me dinner that night too. That was nice. It's a good piece of place. Other than that, that's about it. So if you're afraid of trying out your first comp, don't be. Just sign up and do it. If you hate it, you're only out a few bucks. If you don't, then what's yours?